So push publishing. Push publishing is absolutely awesome. We this is our most used feature internally within ourselves as well. We have an authoring server, which we just added something that will be of use to our current topic, which was REST API forms. Documentation. Before, you had to submit binary forms in a certain order. So this is our authoring server. This is unreleased as of yet. And REST API. And this is about to release in our next release so that you can have a configuration for saving content via REST API and where's our binary fields? Okay. So I just did this documentation, so if it stinks, you can blame me. Binary fields, I uploaded. And first file. Okay, so here it is. There's a new parameter for submitting binary fields that's going to be in our dotCMS 5.0, which is coming out soon. We've actually got our next version is releasing February 20th. But I don't think that'll be 5.0. I think that's 4.3. And that should, if I'm not mistaken, have this. I forget what this documentation is marked, if it's marked for 5.0 or 4.3, but both of them are going to be releasing soon. 5.0 will be right on the tail of 4.3 before our boot camp, certainly in May. So you're able to say what order. So let's just say I did this experiment with file asset. So I'm submitting file asset, and I added a new field called new binary to the file asset content type. So with my form, I'm submitting 2 binary fields with my form. So with this new binary fields parameter, instead of submitting them in order, I can say which fields, I can exclude fields, and I can determine the order here of these files that are being uploaded. So if I have this order, then this file that I'm submitting here is going to submit to the new binary field, no matter whether that's the first field or the 20th field or the 8th field. And this next file that I'm submitting is going to go to file asset as a field. Those are the velocity variable names of the binary fields on that file asset content type. So the reason I show this is, this is on my staging server. My authoring server does not have this. Sorry, my live server does not have this. If we just went to dotcms.com and we went to binary fields, delete, enter. So you look at binary fields and you don't have that nice parameter there. That way, having the authoring server and using push publishing, everyone can check out my documentation on that new parameter, make sure it's right, make sure I didn't screw up, copy and paste the code, test it, make sure it works, QA can use it, all that good stuff. So, we're using it every day, all the time, with tons and tons of users for documentation and for whatever. So how do you set that up, and how do you use this very, very vital feature? Okay. Demo accepted, but I'm trying to think. We've got some new HTTPS requirements, and trying to think whether I'll be able to push publish to the server with these new security settings or not. It's not secure. So, and this is 422. Okay, so I went ahead and set up a local 422. And we're running 422 on the server. Now, sometimes the Amazon server doesn't let the push publishing happen. You have to do some opening up of some more ports, but I'm hoping that it's set up and will allow me to do it. If not, we'll go over the configuration and show you how you set it up anyway. So I'm going to have to go to System and Configuration on both sides. Configuration. And if it doesn't work, then before tomorrow's session, I'll get my server admin to tell me what I need to set on the Amazon server. But I'm hoping that this just works out of the box, because I don't have either one set to HTTPS. That's whenever it gets a little more complicated on your Amazon server settings. So I think this should work. Okay, so I am going to set up my local to be a send to. I need to send to this server. So I'm going to copy out my domain where I'm sending to, and I'm going to add an environment, and I'll call this and I'm going to push to one endpoint. Now I could push to all endpoints at that in a non-clustered environment if I had multiple independent servers. In a clustered environment, you only want to push to one endpoint because each endpoint broadcasts the information to share it with the rest of the clusters in the node. So if you push to all endpoints in a cluster, you'd end up broadcasting once, and then all of those servers would broadcast to each other, and you end up creating new useless noise that doesn't accomplish anything. So push to one endpoint 9 times out of 10 is the right option. I'll put a user, even though admin user should have rights anyway, and I'll save that environment. Now that environment can have one server in it, or 10 endpoints. It can have dynamic endpoints, static endpoints. So once you actually set up the environment, now you can add all of them, multiple or single endpoint. So I'm going to add an actual the server that we're on. So I'm going to set up this server. It's going to be HTTP. Set this up. So that's how to reach it. It's on port 8080. Oh, that's my server name. Address 2, server name, eManage training server. And now here you can put a path to a TXT file that has some sort of encrypted code in it, and then you could have that file on both servers, or you can just go ahead and put 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as my password. Okay. Now this is set up. Now this guy on the other side, it has to be a dual handshake. It has to be a permission from both sides. So now I'm going to add server, and I'm going to see what is my IP here. And here we go. So I'm going to allow from, I keep wanting to do that, Dean's computer. And I'm going to do that same token, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Okay, so now I should be able to, from my sender, I should be able to check integrity, and we're going to know instantly whether this my Amazon server is blocking me or not. Hey, good. Okay, so the no integrity conflicts found means yes. I only have problems whenever it's HTTPS. That's whenever I have to get into the Amazon ports and configure things on the Amazon server. But since this one was set up non-HTTPS, then I'm okay. And now we can go ahead and push publish. So I'm actually going to take, let's see. I don't have anything new here locally, but let me add a new folder. I'll call this eManage. I'll save it, and then I could even create a brand new template called and that I'll just put some whatever medium to add a theme. I'll use Quest. I could even use a new theme and everything, save and publish. Then I'll end my browser inside my eManage directory. I'll create a new page using that template, eManage test push page. And Save and publish the page. Then on the page, I'll drop a brand new piece of content. Save and publish. Now there's a couple different ways to push. I can push publish the page. That appears now because of the configuration, because we set up a push publishing configuration. I can right click and I can now push publish the entire site that I'm on. I can right click and push publish, and that is only because I just set up that configuration. Okay. Otherwise that push publish option wouldn't be there. I can also start adding things to a bundle and then bundle up 30, 40, 50 different things, whatever I want, and then push publish the bundle so that everything arrives there at the same time. That's what we do whenever we're doing our documentation and we're pushing up a new version, and we set up everything to push publish at once, and then we do that one bundle, push publishes, we test it, and then we do it live. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the eManage directory. I'm going to right click on the page inside. Now the content's on the page is using a new template, and the page is inside of a folder. All the dependencies should push. Okay, so I'm going to unlock it first though before I push it. Push publish, and then here it gives me multiple options. Now this is the first way to push publish, and I'm going to show you the workflow way to push publish. It makes it a little nicer. I can push right now and just click push. Okay. I can remove if I've already pushed this page, realized I completely made a mistake, and I can unpush it. Basically, it removes it as if it had never been pushed. Okay. And so I can, remove it right now. Or I can push it on today's date and remove it at a future date. Okay, so as if the push had never happened. And then I can push to, obviously that endpoint that I set up. But I'm just going to push right now. So I'm going to just push. And once you've pushed, then you can take a look here at the push publishing queue. So under site, there's publishing queue right here. You click on it and you can see that that page has been pushed and all the dependencies are going with it, right? Here's what's getting bundled up. Here we can look at the status history. It already shows that it's been sent over to the endpoint. I can keep clicking refresh, or I can just come over here because usually, it's just already done on the other side. Here's the eManage directory already. In the eManage directory, I don't see the page yet. There we go. The page just made it. And if I click on the page, then the page has the content on it. And I lock it for editing, and we can edit the template and see that it's the managed template. So everything as a dependency just came with it, right? Over to our server. And so that's one way to push. Now there's another way to push that is via bundles. Now I believe on a 421, so I think this should work and shouldn't break my local server. Let's see. Let me see what I have. Inside of demo, I have a publish bundle, but I don't remember what version it was for. It was in October, so it wasn't too terribly long ago. I'm going to give it a try. I had downloaded something for a webinar. Okay, and it had to do with movies and stuff like that. So I'm going to go to the push publishing queue, take that prior bundle, I go to bundles, and I'm going to upload that bundle that I created prior. I'm going to click choose file, and then I'm going to go to desktop and demo and this push publishing bundle I did for this webinar. So I'm going to upload it. Now you should never do an upload of a bundle that you aren't sure 100% that it's the same exact version that you're currently running, because push publishing properties may have changed. The programming between versions may have changed. So you do want to try and make sure that if you download a bundle in 422, that you upload it to 422, right? If not, you should upload it to a test, upload it, Then after you upload it and you're sure it works and nothing gets screwed up, then you can go ahead and rebundle it using the latest version, and then go ahead and test it on a staging server, then push it to your live server, right? Okay, my status history of my bundle was that I did the movies thing. I like movies, so it did succeed. So now I should be able to come to my site browser and see a whole movies section set up here under where? Movies. So if I click on movies, there's a new index page, and it's got a whole thing set up for movies, where I'm pulling the category on the left-hand side, so I can click on action, and it reloads the page with the category set up in the URL. It shows me genre action, and I've got Guardians of the Galaxy. I can click on Guardians of the Galaxy. It goes to Guardians of the Galaxy. It shows me the particular categories that are on this particular piece of content. I can click on adventure and filter and keep doing, the stuff between detail, page, and etc., etc. So all of that, including the content, the templates, the dynamic widgets that are being parsed, everything was in that bundle. Okay. Now I can take that bundle that I just uploaded locally and tested, and now since everything looks like it was okay, what I should do first is check my integrity, because this might be using a content type like movies that is already on my other server. So I got to check and see whether I'm going to have a conflict here with that bundle that I just uploaded. So anytime you want to check to see if you have a conflict, you go to your push publishing configuration, not your publishing queue. You go to push publishing environments and you check integrity to see if you've got any repeat content types of the same name, or pages of the same name, or directories of the same name. Hopefully not. I do have a conflict, so now I can avoid it. So D&G movies is the content type. So I would have to erase that. And no folders, no workflows, no HTML pages, no. So what I'm going to do is I am going to change my content type. Now that will break my page that I just created inside of my directory, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and break my page. So what I'm going to do is I want my local inode to persist. I want to remove the remote identifier on that content type, and I want to make it my local identifier. So what I'm basically telling it is take everything as a property of my local D&G movies content type and update the remote inode and make sure that this is the one you pay attention to. So I'm going to fix the remote node, which is the server that you guys are on. And I'm going to, make that ID the same as my local. Then whenever I push my local, then it's pushing my local one and replacing the attributes of my remote one. So I'll fix that. And now that is now fine. I have the conflicts. I should check integrity again to make sure that the fix worked before I push. So if you ever have any failed push publishing, then no integrity found, no conflicts found. So now if I look at my content type that was in conflict, and I look at D&G movies, which if I just look at regular content type and I look at movies, and we look at the IDs of these two content types now, I'll show you what happened. Movies, regular content. What happened was, that's D&G cast, D&G movies. See, this, they had the same velocity variable. So this identifier is the only thing that just got changed so that it matches this identifier. It ends in 541BA, and now this one ends in 541BA. And now whenever I push this one with these fields, genre, poster, description, it will update this one, and it will take away some of my publish date and my publish date properties and my time machine and stuff like that. But that's okay. That's okay. I don't really care so much about that. I'll fix my page later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the browser here, and I'm going to push the entire movies directory, and that'll take the page, that'll take the everything. And you know what? What I'll do is I'll show you how to bundle up. Okay, now I had already uploaded a bundle here to my local. Now inside of my local, after I tested that bundle upload on this 422, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add to bundle. And I'll call this Dean's movie feature. Okay, so I added the folder. That should have the page inside of it. Just to be sure that it is in there, it only adds identifier, and I'll add the page too. The content, I want to make sure I get all the content, even the ones that are not on the page. They're probably pulling dynamically, so I do need to push the content as well. Then I just go ahead and say add to bundle on all of those that I've got selected. Dean's movie feature, add. Now the content itself already has the genre category, so I don't need to push the genre category. It will update automatically. And I do not want to remove yours. However, it might break since the categories are going to do a sync and it's going to replace that. I'm actually going to break your content. And that's good to actually show. What is going to happen here is that this genre category is going to update, and I don't think categories are going to check for synchronization. I mean, it's okay, but I want to show you what happens if you don't keep your genres in sync. Now, we had already used a genre category on our receiving server of the same exact velocity variable name. Categories are the one exception that there's not a one-to-one sync, and on the push publishing configuration licensing, let me create a conflict here. Let's see, what do I got so we can see it? I'll just create a new folder of the same exact name. That's why you shouldn't allow authoring on both servers. Oh, that already exists. Training. Now that creates a conflict because I created training here locally, and on a remote server there is already a training with a different ID. So I've created doppelgangers that aren't actually true. They aren't one-to-one. So if I go to configuration here, and I go back to push publishing environments, and I check integrity, then there's going to be a conflict. But there's a limitation on what the integrity checker checks. Okay. You'll see here that it checks content types, checks folders. Now you can see that training. And so now what I want to do is I want to actually fix at local node. That means I want to take the remote training ID and replace it over this one. That way they will remain in sync, and I'm not, I'm not changing anything. But there isn't categories here, is there? So I'll show you what happens whenever you create categories, two different categories on both ends, which you should never do in the first place. But you should do it on your sender, not on your receiver. And then you push categories over. There isn't a checker for it, right? So it's going to break your content, but you'll be able to quickly replace it immediately. So I'm going to take that bundle. I guess I'll just go to this guy. We don't have any reason to you. I already got the content. I already got that. The category is going to move over, and it's going to break your content. but we already know that. Go to bundles. We're going to push all this stuff. And this content's using this category with this ID. And it's going to replace the one on the other side that your content type and your content is using on the other side. That's why you always want to create things from the authoring server and then push it over instead of creating it here and getting out of sync. I'm going to go to this bundle, and I could download the bundle to upload manually the way that I did off of my desktop, or I can push publish immediately right now. Everything that I've just created from my staging server over to my production. Okay, so this force push, what is it for? If the system's smart enough to know, hey, I already pushed Jaws, I already pushed Ratatouille, I already pushed Brave, I already pushed Guardians of the Galaxy 5 minutes ago. But what if right after I pushed the last time, someone went to the receiving server and deleted all of that content? Now that would be very mean, that would be very nasty, but what if they did? Then the system says, well, none of the content has changed since the last time I pushed, so it tries to be efficient and not push it again if it hasn't changed. It says, I already pushed it, it already should be there, and nothing has changed. There hasn't been any updates, there hasn't been any new content, so I'm going to ignore your request to push. And that normally is very, very efficient whenever you're just pushing like 20,000 employees or something like that. You don't know which ones changed or not, so you just push them all, and that's fine, because it'll only push the new ones or the updated ones. But if you know that there's something wrong with the endpoint, somebody went ahead and deleted stuff or messed it up, you can click on force push, and that will force push everything in the bundle or in, that you're pushing. It'll force push it, and regardless of whether it's pushed before or not. Okay, but I didn't need to force push. I'm just going to push this over, go to my push publishing queue, look, this is all pending, then look at my status history, and it is pending sending over to your server. And yes, I'm going to break your content and your content types in just a second, but I'll show you how to fix it. And it's good to show what can happen, because not everything syncs like content and folders. Not everything is caught by the integrity checker, so we'll do a little troubleshooting. And anytime there's a success or failure, you can click and get a report. Everything okay with the previous ones. Let's see about this one. Hurry up. Come on, little bundle.
So typically, the majority of the people who would be working on this, like our content contributors, will be going through like a generic workflow. Mm-hmm. So would this push publishing thing would be kind of reserved for just the site admins then?
Yes, okay. Exactly. But my job's to show you the power levels from the demigods all the way up to Zeus.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's perfect. To just basically clarifying things our end.
Yep, and then that's the next thing that I'm about to show you. So that'll be a nice segue there. Okay, so now that's a success. I've pushed this new feature, but I did the horrible thing of I created categories locally on one server, and I also created a duplicate category that I was using on the other server. So let's look and see what happened. Everything got over to this end just fine. So I've got my movies over here, I've got my index, I open it up, and everything is there the same way as we saw it the last time. Biography, animation, there we go, click on Brave, and we got all this cool stuff, right? But I can see that my categories, there's something wrong with my categories. So if I come here and click on content, go to content search, I will notice probably that I click on Chi movies. I go to Black Panther. Okay, good. What it did was it broke it on the content I pushed rather than on the existing content. It said, hey, that genre category is already there. Let me not replace it. Let me just push the content. So what I'll need to do is I'll need to replace it on my my movie content. The stuff that I pushed, I'll have to open up Brave, and you see how genre, it's totally, absolutely missing. There's no categories to choose because it said, hey, there is already a category here of that name, so it failed on. But the push didn't fail, but it just didn't add it to the it didn't want to break what was already there. So it was trying to be a smart push, not fail on the push, but not push something that was already duped. So the only thing to fix that I need to do is go to that movies content type that I just pushed, go to the genre category, choose again. You can see how it's totally reset, right? Choose the proper category, save the field. Then I go back to my new movie content that I just pushed, Brave. Now I've got my categories back. So it preserved them on the content, but it didn't push. So now everything, I actually probably need to just save and publish just to reindex that. All I need to do is open it, remembers the settings on the content, and then whenever I look for editing, save and publish. And who are you guys? What is this? I can't even edit this. Can I? That's weird. Some little ghost unpublished content or something. I don't know. But I'm going to delete those. Unpublish. Archive. And then I'll show my archived. And delete those two guys. Maybe they were archived content. Something. I don't know. I have to test that. Or maybe it was because of my 4.1 push over to 4.2. Not sure. Diagnose that later. So now whenever I go back to my page, now that I've just made sure that content is actually connected to that category, now everything works on my page and it's pulling the content and the categories properly. Click on comedy, it's filtering by comedy, and everything's copacetic. But whenever it pushed this content had the right name, it has genre, but the ID of the parent category group did not match. So it was nice. It pushed the folders, it pushed the pages, it pushed the content, but it made a disconnect between the content and the ID of that repeated category that I was trying to push. And it said, you know what, I am not going to, just because you're pushing this new Dean's content, I'm not going to replace the genre category that's already in the system with this new identifier and then break all of the existing content. So what it did was it smartly pushed and only failed on one thing, which was replacing the genre category that your content was using. So the only thing that broke was not all the existing content in the repository, but the relationship between the new content I had pushed and the category that it was using, which had the wrong ID. That makes sense?